Hold on. Before you keep scrolling, answer something for me real quick. Have you ever noticed how she greets you when she sees you? Because there's a detail, small, almost invisible, that most men completely ignore, but it reveals, in seconds, whether a woman is genuinely interested in you or just being polite. And I'm not going to tell you this like someone reading from a textbook. I'm telling you this because I've lived both sides of this story. I've been the woman who greeted a man out of politeness while he swore I was interested, and I've been the woman who tried to hide a huge interest behind a dry, "Hey, how's it going?" So stay with me until the end, because the third sign I'm about to show you is the one almost every man mistakes for rejection, when it's actually the opposite. And I promise, it's going to change the way you walk into any room from now on. If you've ever been unsure, even once in your life, did she actually like me or was she just being polite? Type the word "yes" down below right now. I want to see how many men here have already been through this, because I suspect it's almost everyone. Here's the truth nobody tells you. Women rarely say with words that they're interested. Society never taught us to do that. So we learned, early on, to show it with the body, with the tone of voice, with the way we react in the very first second we see someone. And that's exactly what I'm going to teach you to decode right now, with details I've never shared in any other video. I want to be honest with you before I go on. This is the personal part I almost cut from this script, but I decided to keep it because I think you need to hear it. I was in a relationship for years, actual years, built entirely on misread body language. He thought I wasn't interested because I was dry with my hi. I thought he never noticed me because he never held eye contact. In the end, we were both completely into each other, and we almost lost it because neither of us knew how to read the right signal. That experience, painful, honest, is what made me study this deeply. So everything I'm about to share with you isn't textbook theory. It's lived experience. Now let me ask you something else. How many times have you walked away from a woman thinking she wasn't interested, and later found out, too late, that she actually was, just in her own way? If that's ever happened to you, I need you to keep watching, because what's coming up can keep that from happening again. Here's the problem. Most men were taught to pay attention to words. She said she liked me. She said I was nice. But words lie. Politeness lies. Shyness lies. The body doesn't. And that's exactly where smart, successful men with decades of life experience keep falling into the same trap. They read politeness as disinterest and disinterest as politeness. The result? They miss real opportunities because they don't know how to read the right signal. Or worse, they keep pushing with someone who was never interested at all, and that wears down a man's confidence no matter his age. Has that ever happened to you? Drop the eyes emoji down below if you've ever been stuck in that doubt that ate at you for days. But hold on, because now comes the part I love teaching most. I'm going to show you the 3 signs that behavioral psychology identifies in that very first greeting and what each one actually means. And I promise the second sign is going to make you think of a specific moment in your life. Hold on to that thought, because I'm coming back to it in a bit. Sign number 1. Pay close attention to this one because it happens so fast that most men simply never train their eye to catch it. The first sign is the length of eye contact. Picture a pretty common situation. You show up at a get-together, a barbecue, a friend's family gathering, whatever, and there are several women there greeting everyone as they arrive. Most of them will look at you, smile politely, and that gaze will be gone before you even finish saying, "Hey, how's it going?" That's the neutral pattern. It's fast, automatic. She's not even really processing who you are. It's just social protocol. Her brain's already thinking about the next person in line, what food's coming out, anything else. Now picture a different scene. You walk into the same room, and there's one specific woman who, when her eyes meet yours, holds that gaze for a moment that feels slightly longer than normal, almost uncomfortable even for her. And here's the important part. Minutes later, in the middle of the party, you notice she glanced your way again, even while she's talking to someone completely different. That's not a coincidence. That's her brain checking back on something it flagged as relevant. I have a real example of this. A friend of mine, over 50, married now, told me once that he met his wife at his company's year-end party. He said he didn't notice anything special during the greeting, figured she was just being polite. But later that night, while he was in the middle of telling a coworker some random work story, she, from across the room, looked at him again, for no obvious reason. He told me this laughing, years later, saying, "I had no idea what that meant at the time. Now, he knows." And that's exactly the kind of sign I want you to start catching in real time, not 15 years later looking back. So tell me something honestly. Next time a woman greets you, are you actually going to pay attention to this, or are you going to let it slide again, just like you always have? Now, hold on to that question, because what's coming next is going to make you think of someone specific. Seriously, almost every man watching this has lived through this without even realizing it. Sign number 2, and this one's subtle. Maybe the subtlest of the 3, but once you learn to see it, you won't be able to unsee it. The second sign is the split-second pause before the response. And I'll admit this is my favorite one to explain, because it's the most human of the 3. Picture this scenario. You're at a store, a coffee shop, a bank line, anywhere in everyday life, and you catch eyes with a woman who works there or who's also waiting in line. If she simply answers hi on autopilot, with no shift in tone, no beat of silence before it, that's the social script running on its own. It's the same hi she gives everyone who steps in front of her all day long. But when there's real interest, something shifts in the timing. There's a fraction of a second, almost impossible to time, but noticeable to someone paying attention, where she's kind of processing your presence before responding. Sometimes it comes with a smile that arrives before the words do, like her face reacts first, and her mouth takes just a beat longer to form the word. Let me tell you something that happened to me recently. I was at a coffee shop, totally distracted on my phone, and a guy came up to ask about the menu. The moment I looked up and saw his face, I literally felt, a second of, "Oh, he's cute," cross my mind before I could even get out, "Oh, let me show you here." He never knew that. He probably assumed I was just being helpful, professional. But if he'd paid attention to the timing of my response, he would have noticed there was a pause there that wasn't there when other customers asked the exact same thing. Remember that thought I asked you to hold on to earlier? Now I want you to really go back to it. Think of a specific woman who, when she saw you, hesitated for a moment before answering your hi. Maybe it was even recent. Someone came to mind just now, didn't they? Hold on to that name, because you might have missed a huge signal without even realizing it was right in front of you. I'll admit something to you. I still do this with people I'm interested in, and I hate it, because I feel like I'm giving myself away without saying a word. But it's involuntary. No woman with real interest can fully avoid that split-second pause, no matter how reserved, shy, or closed off she seems day to day. And that's exactly why it's so valuable for you to learn to spot it, because it works even on the most guarded women, the ones you'd swear never show anything. Let me ask you something direct right now. Out of every woman who's crossed your path this week, how many did you actually stop to feel the timing of their response instead of just listening to the words? If the answer's none, that's fine. That's exactly what I'm here for today. And now comes the sign almost nobody knows about. This one is what separates the men who truly read women from the ones who are just guessing in the dark. And before I tell you, I need you to promise me something. Pay attention to this in your very next conversation, because this sign alone makes this whole video worth it. Sign number 3, the most reliable of all, because it's almost impossible to consciously control. The third sign is the direction of her feet and body. Let me give you an example. Any man who's ever been to a party, a bar, a social gathering will recognize instantly. Picture a circle of 4 or 5 people talking. You're standing there, kind of on the edge of the group, not the center of attention. There's a woman in that circle actively talking to someone else, looking at them, responding, laughing. But if you pay attention to her body, not her face, her whole body, you'll notice her feet or her torso are subtly angled toward you, even though her face is turned toward someone else. That's her subconscious saying, "This person matters to me," while her mouth is busy with a completely different conversation. I've seen this happen so clearly, it still sticks with me. At a friend's birthday party, there was a guest who spent the whole night talking to another friend's boyfriend, laughing back and forth, chatting away. But her body, the entire time, was angled toward a different guy sitting alone near the grill, scrolling on his phone, completely unaware of any of it. Feet pointed at him, torso slightly rotated, even while she laughed loudly with the other guy. By the end of the night, she, coincidentally, went to grab a drink right next to where he was standing. He thought it was chance. It wasn't. And that's exactly the sign that most older, more experienced men completely miss, because they were taught, from a young age, to pay attention only to what's said, never to what's shown by the body. I've seen brilliant men, successful in their careers, with decades of professional and life experience, completely freeze up in a simple social conversation because they never learned to read the body, only the words coming out of the mouth. Think fast. Don't filter your answer. At the last party or get-together you went to, is there a woman you remember who kept angling slightly toward you, even while talking to someone else? If a name just popped into your head, that's not a coincidence. That's your memory showing you a signal you already picked up on. You just didn't know how to decode it. Let me be honest with you one more time. I chose to share these real stories in this video because I got tired of watching psychology content that feels distant, academic, soulless, full of technical terms and zero real-life examples. I want you to feel like you're in a conversation with me, not sitting through some boring college lecture, because this uncertainty about reading signals, about understanding what a woman really feels underneath the politeness and standard friendliness, isn't a weakness in you. It's human. Everyone's felt lost in this at some point, including me. Including the women you assume always knew exactly what they were doing. So here's the recap. And pay attention because this changes everything. Stop trying to decode words. Start observing behavior. The length and return of the gaze. The pause before the response. The direction of the body. Together, these 3 signs form what I call the genuine approach pattern. And once you learn to spot it in real time, in the middle of an actual conversation, you'll never again be stuck wondering if a woman is interested or just being nice out of politeness. This isn't luck. It's not a sixth sense. It's behavioral reading, trainable, observable. And any man, at any age, can learn it. Because this has nothing to do with age, it has to do with attention. Before I let you go, I need to ask you for something, and I mean it. This isn't just some video ask. If anything here opened your eyes to a situation you lived through and never quite understood, hit like right now, because that tells me it's worth it to keep making this kind of content for you. Comment "got it" down below if any of these 3 signs made you think of someone specific. And subscribe to the channel, because in the next video I'm going to show you the signs she gives once the interest has moved past the greeting into a completely different level. I know sometimes it feels like reading a person is a gift only some people are born with. It's not. I learned this through mistakes, through pain, through years of misunderstanding, through stories like the ones I shared with you today. And if I learned it, you can too. The only difference between the man who freezes up, unsure whether to approach, and the man who understands exactly what's happening right in front of him is paying attention to the right details. You already have those details now. What you do with them starting today is entirely your choice. I'll be here, in the next video, ready to show you the next step. See you then.